We're ready to go? Okay, good evening. Welcome to the June 7th, 2023 meeting of the Hamilton Zoning Board of Appeals. Our agenda is as follows. Public hearing for 39 Tally-Ho Drive, seeking a variance for the front yard setback. Continued public hearing for special permit under zoning bylaw 3.6 for an accessory apartment in the lower level of the existing house. Property is 21 Blueberry Lane, owner Nathan Smith. Continued public hearing, special permit application for the property owned by Paul Tober, 438 Asbury Street. Seeking approval to construct an apartment under zoning bylaw 3.6 accessory apartment. That hearing is continued at the request of the petitioner to August 2, 2023. And then the main event, continued board discussion. Discuss and consider the appeal as submitted by Harbor Light Community Partners, 283 Elliott Street. The appeal is of the decision approved and signed by the Hamilton Zoning Board of Appeals, filed with the Hamilton Town Clerk on March 21st, 2023, to construct a 45-unit affordable housing complex at 466 Highland Street. We do have some meeting minutes to discuss, and we'll discuss possible board reorganization, somewhat based on what happens here this evening. So the first item is for the property at 39 Tally-Ho Drive, owner Patrick Norton. Are you Mr. Norton, or? Okay. If you'd go to and identify yourself and tell us what you're proposing.
Yep, so it's Pat Norton, 39 Tally-Ho Drive. Thanks for getting me on the agenda this evening. Would you like me to share the couple of slides just to get the images out there? I don't know. I forwarded them along to Mary Ellen this morning.
Sure, we did get something in our packet.
Yeah. I'm on the Zoom, so I think I can share.
Okay.
If I'm allowed.
Yeah, it's fine by me, but if our technical department can.
I might. Oh, here we go.
We have a substitute technical department tonight. So.
Oh, there you go. I also am the technical assistant for when Patrick Reffett and.
When he's not in the.
Yeah, right. Okay, so I'll share my screen. All right. So good one. So my wife Miley and I are lucky enough to live on a street where it's a pretty amazing spot to have a front porch, and that's what we're proposing. As you saw in the site plan, our home is not parallel to our front yard property line in the street itself. So we have zoning required setback on the lower left-hand corner there, but we're a couple feet short. Apparently, as the surveyor has said, to the north there on the other end of the house. So by my tape to the sidewalk, just the edge of the street is actually 32.6. That's the edge of the street. Center of the street is 58 from that corner of the house. So it's a 6-foot porch. And again, awesome street. Kids play out in the front yard. I'm getting old and tired of sitting on the stone front step, as you see here. I took this picture this morning, actually. The trees or shrubs in front of the home are further than the 6-foot porch would be. So I don't know if you can see right here is a cone that's on top of a lacrosse stick, which is 6 feet off the house. That's the extent of the porch. That's what that looks like. This is the front elevation of the proposed expansion, so it's bumping up the garage. As you can see, the house doesn't change at all, except for some reconfiguration of windows. Porch wraps around, and we're bumping up a garage, put a master suite. Quite a bit of construction in our neighborhood lately, which is kind of cool to see, actually. This is a couple houses away. The front porch, this is an 8-foot porch. I think they get the setback, I'm not sure. I haven't pulled any documentation on this construction project, but, you know, similar type of porch that we're envisioning, so I thought it interesting to show a photo of. And that's the street right there. Looking from the edge of, or the end of Tally Ho, I guess, back, this is the Carlson's home on the right. Alice and John live next to us here on the left, and that's our house right here. Our neighbors, Steve, and then that new construction is just on the other side of their house there. So that's the street the kids are biking up and down every day. And that's really the proposal we have in front of you tonight.
Okay, so you just give me again, if you would, you said it's 58, did you say it's 58 feet from the corner?
I took a measurement from, I don't know if you can see my cursor on the screen. So this corner of the house, right here, to the street, that's 32.6,
No, okay.
32.8.
Oh, okay.
To the street.
No, okay,
uh,
okay.
Or the
Might be
street
the
or your
sidewalk.
property line.
I mean, well, it's 23 plus or minus from the edge of the proposed porch to the property line, which is inside the sidewalk on that street. So that's the 2-foot variance I'm requesting this evening.
Because just so we know, we're clear what we're talking about, the bylaw says that the required setback is 25 feet from the street line
Yeah.
or 50 feet from the street center line, whichever is greater.
So we're 58 to the center, but being on the planning board and having helped write the bylaw, I know the intent really is not street, it's property line. It's a little nuance I've learned. So it's street, we got the street setback,
Okay.
but the property line setback, we're almost 24, it's 23 plus or minus. He's like, I could have written 24.
Do you happen to know what the houses on either side,
Yeah.
how close they are to the street line?
They're pretty much exactly on our house, so the existing, I actually was hoping I'd have an existing nonconformance with my front step.
That was my next question.
It was right on the edge. So I couldn't come here with a straight face to say I had that, but it was close, and I imagine our neighbors are as well. But neither neighbor on either side has the front porch, but their house is probably similar setback to the sidewalk and street than ours is. But like I showed, 2 houses away, they had that. I haven't done the measurement to the. I don't know what their property line is. Obviously, I haven't surveyed our neighbor's house.
Because the section 4.2.4 says no building need be set back more than the average setback of the buildings on either side.
Right.
So, okay. Questions from my colleagues?
Yeah, I'm just looking at the picture of the other house. Yeah, he's, like he was saying, they're pretty much right on line with him as also.
Yeah. And it's kind of right in our neighborhood right now, it seems like everyone's looking to add the porch to get away from we're all trying to get rid of the curse of Dutch colonial overhang. And also the people everyone wants to hang out on the porch and watch the kids play in the yard and the street in front of us, so. That's really, and the house not being, getting the setback on one side, not on the other. A 6-foot porch is really as small as you want to get to make it usable. If you want to put a chair or anything out there, it's tough to do anything with much less.
Basically your table right there.
Yeah. And again, all the shrubs and everything else in front are further than that, but.
So, no, okay, never mind. So let me see. I'm not, any
I
questions?
mean, I got the setback from the street in
Yeah,
the center of
okay.
the street.
And you said your property line actually kind of goes closer to into the street you were mentioning?
No, actually, the property line is further within the sidewalk, as I.
Yeah, that's what I was asking. So you're in the sidewalk.
I'm like well inside the sidewalk. I'm basically I think it looks like our property line from what the surveyor had here is about 3 feet within the sidewalk
Okay.
from my measurements. So we're getting the street setback to the sidewalk, and then you got another, that's why I got 32 something to the
Yeah, so
street.
you've got kind of a weird situation going, so.
I mean, it's great we have the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I love that.
So is that grass then between the sidewalk and the street? On the grass strip?
That's right. Yeah. So I maintain that. I'm not asking for a tax credit or anything.
I have no
I do with
issue.
ours too. 7.5 feet of town property I'm mowing.
Right. There's a couple questions, it looks
Yeah, I
like.
guess the only thing is if we allow this, then the neighbors get to do it also.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty,
It's not much. And it looks nice and
Yeah.
it's very neighborly.
Yeah, we got the Regans across the street. Everybody's hanging, this is where everyone hangs out, in the street in this neighborhood. It's not a cut through, so.
It's not going to deter from the appearance of the neighborhood. It's not going to change the
It's gonna
outlook.
enhance it.
It's going to enhance the local area. The bushes are already taking up more than the front, and he's asking, so he's actually going to open up the yard a bit.
Mr. DeRocher, you have any thoughts on this?
And no pre-existing non-conformity along the front?
It was dang close, but
How close?
within a foot,
Within, okay.
yeah. That front step's within a foot.
35 looks like it might be a little closer to the road.
Um,
That was the one line.
yeah, Steve's house. I didn't do
So you're inclined to,
we're about the same.
I think it's okay. You can't, doesn't make sense to make it any smaller. And if you
I mean,
just physically, it's pointless to put it on if you can't even sit on it, stand on it. So,
and the steps are already like right there, so he's kind of just,
yeah. So you're gonna have steps, new steps.
It'll be,
It'll
it'll be
further
two, yeah, because we'll step up to the front door, so it'll be a lower step. The porch will be
Yeah.
one step below, the elevation's one step below the front door. So probably 2 steps to get up on the porch. Probably granite steps in the front.
well, here's what I'm gonna propose. Well, what are you thinking, Steve?
What was it that was being mentioned about the center line of the street versus the property line?
So the bylaw reads to the edge of the street, 20 feet to the edge, or 50 to the center.
25 to the edge of the street,
Yeah, or
which is-
50 to the
Whichever's
center.
further. So we're 58 to the center of the street.
50.
We're 58 to the center.
You are.
I guess what I'm
You are,
taking, what
okay.
I pulled, I got a couple pictures on my phone, but the picture, the measurement I took is the edge of the house here,
Mhm.
the center line of the street, which is out here. And that's 58. We're 32.6 to the street.
So wouldn't that mean that your front setback would actually be less than 25? You could be, as long as you're within the 50.
This is where the legalese of subjective bylaw interpretation
Is
comes
that
in.
the,
Yeah, it's-
Well, when, in the in the old, I'll say the old bylaw, it had a definition. In the new bylaw, it codified it, but in the form of a table of dimensional regulations. And for front yard setback, it's in the R1A district, it says 25/50, and then the note is 25 feet from the street line or 50 feet from the street center line, whichever is greater. That's, to say that that's a little vague, I
Yeah.
think.
So as a member of the planning board, I endeavor to clarify. I'm currently working on the stormwater update,
Yeah,
but that'll be
so,
the next thing.
If it's 58 to the center line, I'd say based on we could based on the,
And you're taking my, that's not been surveyed. That's my,
okay. but-
I have a picture, that's me pulling a tape from the corner of the house here to the center line of the street between my house and the Reagan's house.
Well, I suppose, let me ask excuse me, let me ask a question. How quickly did you want to get going on this?
I guess my wife and I would like to get going pretty soon. We have a
Okay.
contractor on
'Cause,
board. Our neighbors are on board.
Because, and this is somewhat, this is, as you know, variances, it's a difficult hurdle, and while you make a compelling case, we rarely grant them. Maybe we should get a little more clarification on what the actual setbacks are of the properties on either side of you, and a measurement to the center, an actual measurement to the center line.
Well, fair enough. I can't survey my neighbors' homes.
No,
So
but you can,
I can go there and do my
Ask-
own little tape measurement, observation. Again, it's a
we could
20
ask the
plus-
building inspector to go out and then inspect.
Yeah, he was the one that, yeah,
Yeah, well,
he could certainly do that. I will follow the guidance of the board. I
I'm-
would say this is,
I'm not, as I say, you make a compelling case, but it's hard to see. I would find it difficult without a little more information, to grant the variance.
sure.
Now, maybe this be a little, I don't think it's out of line. This could, I'm going to be going off the board, so I would be,
Yep.
I would be, consider recusing myself, and if the other members of the board wanted to grant the variance, they could vote, they could do so, and I'd write the decision. That's why I asked where you stand on it. Otherwise, I can say without further information, I'm not going to vote in favor of a variance. I have to,
Sure,
so.
Could it be a conditional, would you make a conditional type of, let the appeals period start rolling and I'll come
Yeah,
back with
I don't want to get
information?
this too complicated.
Okay,
And I know you'd like to get going on it,
yeah,
but,
no, it's fair.
there likely will be a July meeting, but not the first week of July. Usually, so it's not guaranteed.
Sure.
So, disappointing as is, I suggest that we continue the hearing.
Okay.
What are you thinking, Bruce?
I don't know, I always thought, for whatever reason, I always thought that you had to consider your property line, your setbacks in your property line. But this table doesn't say anything about a
The
property
intent,
line, it's just
street, well,
Street center line or street, edge of street. Right?
Which number are you
It's
looking at?
25 minimum front yard. See also section 424.
okay.
Average setbacks, okay, that's the average setback. We'll talk about that. So if you're, he's 23 feet from his property line, and he still has quite a ways to go. So you hit
Edge of pavement on
edge
the,
of pavement, which is from the street line, edge of pavement,
Well,
50 feet from the street center line, whichever is greater. And he's more than 50 feet by a lot. I don't see any problem with it, if that's the way.
so, yeah, you're right, it refers to street line, well, not property line.
Right.
So, on that basis, I think the way to go would be to make a finding that under the bylaw, we find that he in fact meets the requirements of the bylaw, and that he doesn't need a variance.
He doesn't need a variance, right?
Yeah.
And that's directive to the building inspector, and I could go along with that.
Yeah,
Is that,
I thought there was something in here that referred to property line, but
David, is that?
Yeah, no, I'm looking at the same one Bruce is. I'm in agreement with Bruce. Yeah, so.
Okay,
He's got the space.
so I think, that's, even though you applied for a variance, I think we can, this is within that, so basically we can issue, a finding of fact that you don't need a variance, and we find that you do meet the terms of the bylaw.
yeah, I understand that.
So
All right.
I would I can't think of any conditions.
now he's got the right to vote.
Stick to the plans that you shared with us.
I would entertain a motion to grant the finding of fact that, in fact, the proposed addition and front porch meets the terms of the bylaw. Is there a motion?
I motion that it meets the terms of the bylaw.
Moved by David Parent-Chief. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Bruce Gingrich. Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So what happens now, I have 14 days to write and file a decision with the town clerk. From the date that's filed with the town clerk, there's a statutory 20-day appeal period. When that runs, you can get a certified copy and record it, and you can get your building permit.
That sounds great.
Okay?
Thanks for your time.
Very good.
Good evening.
Thanks. I didn't want my almost my penultimate action on the Board of Appeals to be granting a variance. Okay, the next item is, I guess I'm, yeah, why not? Let me get the right piece of paper. Okay, the next item of business is a continued public hearing on the property at 21 Blueberry Lane. Is there anyone here for Blueberry Lane? Is there anyone on the Zoom for Blueberry Lane? This was continued from last month.
Hold on a second, we got some. Yes. Let me, allow them to talk. Sophia?
Hi, this is Nathan. Sorry.
Hi.
Sophia's.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes.
And welcome, and please tell us what you're proposing.
Yeah, so we are proposing to add a second kitchen in an accessory unit downstairs in our residence. The work that would need to be done is basically installing cabinets, reworking some of the plumbing, and changing some of the electrical wiring inside the bottom floor. We additionally will be filing a deed restriction with the Board of Health. That is something I still need to get notarized and submitted, as we are only using 3 of the 5 bedrooms allotted, even with the accessory unit. And we plan to file a deed restriction to limit it to 5 so that we don't need to rework the septic. And in terms of the external portion of the residence, we are not planning any modifications to the outside of the house. And we have taken pictures as it relates to parking at the residence, and that we have sufficient parking for this accessory unit. I think that's the gist of it.
Okay, we did, thank you. We did get a memo from the building inspector who just says the applicant is seeking a special permit under section 3.6 for an accessory apartment in the lower level. The building department did inspect and measure the lower level. As stated in the application, they are just adding a kitchen. Let me just quickly go over the requirements under the bylaw so that we make sure that you meet them. Let's see, so you submitted a floor plan. It says in written verification by the Board of Health. You're going to be filing a deed restriction. No modifications to the exterior, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
It'll be a separate, complete housekeeping unit, separate
Yes.
from the principal dwelling. And what's the square footage?
I think it ended up, when the building inspector came out, in the 800s.
Okay. It's going to be held in common ownership. So it's not going to be condominiumized, or
No.
and you as the owner are going to live in one of the units.
Yes.
Okay. You say there is an off-street parking space.
Yes.
I don't have it. What's the lot size?
Just under an acre.
Okay. Okay, any questions from members of the board? No, any questions from members of the public? Okay, it seems pretty straightforward. I guess the only special condition would be that can't be occupied until this deed restriction is approved by the Board of Health and filed at the Registry of Deeds.
Okay.
So with that condition, is there a motion to grant the petition for accessory apartment?
I motion to grant the addition of accessory apartment.
Okay, it's been moved by David Parentchief. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye, okay. So the procedure is I have 14 days to write and file a decision with the town clerk. From the date, you'll get a copy from the date that it's filed. There's a 20-day statutory appeal period that has to run, then you can get your building permit and go ahead. And you should get a certified copy of once the decision is final, get a certified copy from the town clerk and record it at the Registry of Deeds.
Okay, thank you all.
Okay, thank you. Okay, next is the special permit for 438 Asbury Street. Paul Tober, the owner. That's been continued, is continued to the August 2nd, 2023 meeting. Okay, that brings us just before that, we get into the discussion on Asbury Commons. I guess the board should probably, at this point, something could come over the transom, or you could decide not to have a July meeting. There isn't. So usually, when we've had one, we've done it in the second weekend, the second week of July because of 4th of July. But if you want to just, at this point, skip over to August, we can. I don't know what folks' vacation plans are.
That's the 5th.
You probably don't want to
I'm
meet.
around, but everybody else is.
I mean, you know, you could schedule one, and then if something doesn't come in, you don't have to have it, but, or if you decide to go on vacation, so, okay.
I mean, I'm around also for that.
Okay,
Either the 5th or the 12th.
okay,
Kick it to the.
all right. Okay.
Is there anything coming up?
Well, I'm not aware of anything that's been filed at this point, and since the one that we continued has been continued to August,
So we just pushed off.
unless we don't finish our work here tonight on Asbury Commons, there's nothing in the pipeline. But
Yeah, okay.
okay, so the next item of business is considering the appeal of the decision that was filed on Asbury Commons for 466 Asbury Street, Highland Street, excuse me, for a 45-unit affordable housing complex. We have our special counsel, George Pucci, here to help guide us, but I think basically we'll be going through the requests that were requests by the applicant, Harbor Lake Community Partners, for modifications to the decision. We kind of went over these in some degree at our last meeting. Mr. Twyman, correct? You had just come there. First, could you just confirm that, have there been any additional changes requested from what you had initially filed with us?
No, Mr. Chairman. Ben Timon for Harbor Light. No, the changes are the same ones that we submitted informally through Town Council at the end of April, and they also track the pleading that we filed with the Housing Appeals Committee, in which we, sought some modifications and clarifications of certain conditions. So there's nothing new from your last discussion.
Okay, thanks. Just procedurally, Mr. Pucci, we'll consider each one of these. Some of them are fairly minute. Do we need to vote separately on each one?
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the board. George Pucci from KP Law. Yeah, I would recommend you go through them in the format that council submitted them and vote them individually. Because if you find that any one of these or more that you don't want to accept it as an insubstantial change, then that's going to go forward. And the Housing Appeals Committee, which has the appeal currently, is going to have a further status conference on the matter following your meeting. So if you end up accepting them all, that will resolve it. If you end up accepting most but not all, then the applicant will have a decision to make, and we'll have a further discussion, and it will be further conference before the Housing Appeals Committee. So I do think for clarity, it would be a very good idea to go through them one by one.
Thanks a lot. Okay, I have the redlined, so that I'm going to be working off the same redlined copy that we did the last time. The first change was on page 1 of the decision, paragraph 2. The decision provided 45 units shall consist of rental housing. All the units shall be affordable at no more than 80%. Oh, wait a minute.
It went from 60 to 80.
Yeah, I gotta. Okay. Oh, I gotta jump to conditions. Oh, I thought I had this all. Bear with me a minute. Okay. It's section 5, conditions, regulatory conditions, paragraph 2, the decision provided for 45 units shall consist of rental housing. All the units shall be affordable at no more than 60% area median income and shall comply with all DHCD qualified subsidy requirements and shall be eligible for inclusion in the town of Hamilton's subsidized housing inventory, SHI, with DHCD. And the request of the applicant is that 60% be changed to 80%. Now, my understanding, can we get, does that?
I think you've got a mic.
Yeah, I think you can use, maybe, so you don't have to keep jumping up and.
I was going to stay over.
Well, either way.
Just kidding. Let's save it.
Okay.
May I sit?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
I do like to be respectful for my.
No, I appreciate that.
Should I just leave it?
I think you're live.
Yeah, I should note, Mr. Chair, I communicated with you today on these, and I gave kind of recommendations
Right,
along the
but
way of
I think
what I
that-
saw as, that I would recommend be accepted as an insubstantial change, and what maybe that you might have further questions on. This one I had noted, and I'll repeat it now. Pretty much if the applicant satisfies the jurisdictional requirements of the statute, you don't really have the say over it. As long as it is qualified affordable housing under the statute, it's going to count on your shy, it isn't really your province to say 60% or 80%. I think they wanted to protect themselves for the future, that they're not bound to the 60% AMI, depending on what happens on the future. So,
Okay.
my recommendation would be that would be an acceptable modification.
Okay,
Just a brief word about that.
sure, just,
Very brief. And thank you, Attorney Pucci, and I obviously concur with his recommendation, given that it's our recommendation as well. But I did just want to point out, so that there's no, confusion out there in the public or anywhere else, that Harbor Light does, typically and does plan to do on this project 60%. That's the subsidy program that they use. But as Attorney Pucci said, given that subsidy programs can change over the life of a project, they did not want to be, bound to that, given that 80% is still acceptable to DHCD for inclusion on the SSI. So I just wanted to make sure that there wasn't any sense that Harbor Light was planning to change that now. It's just to be able to have flexibility in the future.
okay, thank you. Any questions from members of the board? Any questions from members of the public? I'm gonna vote on these as we go along, so that so I keep it straight. Okay, then I would, if there are no questions or comments, I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed change to paragraph 2 of the section A of the regulatory conditions. Is there a motion?
A motion to approve 5.8.2.
Okay, moved. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, okay, that's approved. Thank you. Next, in paragraph 5, same section A of conditions, they're proposing changing it in Roman V to capital A3 to make the proper reference. If there are no questions or comments about that, I'd entertain a motion to approve that change.
Motion to change the Roman numeral.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye. Oh, I should ask first, any
Aye.
questions or comments from members of the public? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, thank you.
We
Moving,
have one of those in paragraph 1, A1 as well.
um,
I want us to have to
Oh,
come
there is,
back
yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a
Oh.
strike out of,
fix that one too.
Okay. Going back to paragraph 1, there's a change from condition Roman V to condition cap B.1. Is there a motion to approve that change?
I'll motion to approve that.
That's been moved by Bruce Gingrich, second.
I second.
All for discussion, questions from the public? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, okay. Down to paragraph 7 of that same the decision read, the applicant shall market the initial rent up of the project under a local preference approved by the subsidizing agency and shall assist the town in submitting evidence necessary to support the local preference requirement. And the proposed change proposed by the applicant is the applicant shall pursue a local preference requirement to the extent allowable by the subsidizing agency and shall assist the town in submitting evidence necessary to support the local preference requirement. Any questions or comments by members of the board? By Mr. Twyman or Mr. Pucci?
No,
Or
no.
by members of the public? If not, then I would ask for a motion to approve the change to paragraph 7 as proposed by the applicant.
I motion to approve paragraph 7 with the strikeout.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Next, we go into section B, general conditions. Paragraph 6. The decision provided, the terms and conditions of this decision shall be binding on any successors or assigns of the applicant, and the terms and conditions shall run with the land. The nonprofit and affordability requirements shall apply to any successor in interest regardless of the sale, transfer, or assignment of the project. The proposed change by the applicant is the terms and conditions of this decision shall be binding on any successors or assigns of the applicant, and the terms and conditions shall run with the land. The ownership entity, nonprofit or for-profit limited dividend organization, requirement, and affordability requirement shall apply to any successor in interest regardless of the sale, transfer, or assignment of the project. Any questions or comments by members of the board? Any questions or comments by Mr. Twyman or Mr. Pucci?
A limited dividend entity would qualify, so I don't have a problem with the suggested change. I
Okay.
thought there was a word dangling, though, after the paren. Maybe I read it too quickly.
Requirement,
Yeah, is,
outside,
The ownership entity requirement.
They just struck out the
Nonprofit.
S.
okay. Got it.
Okay. Any questions from members of the public? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the proposed change to paragraph 6 of the section B of the general conditions.
I'll motion to change that.
Okay, moved. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next, same section, paragraph 8. Oh, wait a minute.
13.
No, paragraph 13. Okay, oh, okay. Double-sided printing is freaking me out. Paragraph 13, the decision read, "There shall be no telecommunication equipment, cell arrays, or antenna affixed to the roof or sides of the building." Paragraph 13, as proposed by the change, as proposed by the applicant, is there shall be no telecommunication equipment, cell arrays, or antenna affixed to the roof or sides of the building, except that upon the agreement of the property owner, the town of Hamilton may place such equipment, arrays, or antenna in these locations. Are there any questions or comments by members of the board? I'm assuming, Mr. Pucci or Mr. Twyman, that if we granted this, that any such thing would still require the applicant and the town to get any approvals from other boards that, like the planning board or the zoning board, that might be involved in permitting these
Special
Yeah.
permit or-
As required.
as
yeah.
required, right? Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the public? Hearing None, and if there are no other questions from the board, I don't have a problem with this, so I would accept a motion to approve the change to paragraph 13 as proposed by the applicant.
I motion to approve paragraph 13.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving along, we now come to paragraph
18.
18, which deals with, it's the prefatory language regarding erosion and sedimentation control measures, so which the decision just provided erosion and sedimentation control measures shall include the following, and then went on to A, B, C, D, E, etc. And the proposed language to the prefatory language proposed by the applicant is to the extent consistent with the project's stormwater pollution and prevention plan and the NPDES requirements therein, SWPPP, which shall control in the event of inconsistency, erosion and sedimentation control measures shall include the following. Perhaps Mr. Twyman or Mr. Pucci will enlighten us a bit on
I mean, I can comment before Attorney Timon does. One thing you would not want to have happen is an inconsistency between, if they require a NIPDES permit, which they do, they're also going to have to do, the SWIP is the Stormwater Pollution Prevention Plan. You wouldn't want an inconsistency between what you're approving and what's going to be in that plan, because that's going to govern their stormwater management. I'm unaware of anything that came up in the public hearing that you had some type of discrepancy with a local provision that you were concerned about and enforcing that independent of what would be required under the federal permit. So I'm fine with it as an insubstantial change, but that's kind of my take on it.
Okay. Anything you want to add, Mr. Twyman? Okay. Any questions or comments from members of the board or members of the public? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the substitute prefatory language to paragraph 18 as provided by the applicant.
I motion to accept paragraph
Okay.
18.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Paragraph
19.
19. I won't read the entire, well, maybe I'll have to. Just the first, paragraph 19, the first sentence provides, during construction, the applicant or its agent shall conduct and document inspections of all erosion control measures no less than weekly and prior to the following anticipated storm events, the purpose of which is to determine the overall effectiveness of the erosion and sedimentation control measures and for implementation of additional control measures as needed. And the applicant proposes the following language to that first sentence, some additional language, during construction to the extent consistent with the project's SWPPP, which shall control in the event of inconsistency, the applicant or its agent shall conduct and document inspections, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm assuming, Mr. Pucci, same comment as the last. So are there any questions or comments from members of the board or members of the public? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the additional language to the first sentence of paragraph 19 as proposed by the applicant.
I'll motion to approve that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Same section now, paragraph 28, no, 29. Paragraph 29 provided no blasting is permitted. The proposed change to paragraph 29 is blasting is not permitted unless upon the applicant's engineer determining during site development that limited blasting is required to construct the project. A, the applicant provides the town of Hamilton Building Department and abutters to the property advance notice of at least 30 days before such blasting. And B, such blasting comply with all applicable local and state laws and regulations governing noise, vibration, and worker protection. Anything you want to say on this, Mr. Twyman?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So there is no information that my client has at all that blasting would be required. Having said that, the purpose behind this proposed change is to deal with a situation which is probably quite remote, that during initial site development, that there is that an engineer identifies that there might be some blasting required. The no blasting, the sort of moratorium on any kind of blasting, we felt could stall the project if we were to find that it is required. So, which is why we added this additional language. Having said that, and not knowing the board's position on this, I will say that the regulation that we are proceeding under, having to deal with post-permit issuance changes, is something that would be available to us at any time in the future if we were to find that blasting was required. So if the board wasn't comfortable making this change now, Harbor Light would be able to come back and seek an amendment if it was faced with an engineer's report that blasting was required. So perhaps that's an alternative that we would offer for your consideration. But having said that, the language that I proposed here, I felt was measured and appropriate for the objective that we were seeking.
Thank you. Anything you want to add to that, Mr. Pucci?
My only comment on it is kind of in follow-up to the last comment that was made, is that there's nothing precluding the applicant later on from seeking a modification. And at that point, there would be a permit in effect, no appeal pending, no HEC involved. They would come back under the regulations and request a modification. At that time, you could make the same determination, whether it's substantial or insubstantial. You'd want to be looking at issues like, why do they have to really do it? What are the conditions that are going to be in place? Accept it as an insubstantial change at that point, and they wouldn't be held up. So that's my recommendation on that, is that this one, you may want to think about finding it a substantial change.
Okay, thank you.
And so if I may add, I think that we would certainly prefer the opportunity to withdraw this particular revision, as opposed to the board taking a vote on it, either denying our request for insubstantial change or finding that it is a substantial change. So I would do that prior to any vote, but I recognize that none of the members have had a chance to speak to it yet.
Well, I'm all for kicking this one down kicking this can down the highway. So I don't know how my
A lot of
colleagues.
legalese in that conversation right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, kicking the can. That's yeah.
let's
I
get to the
could
meat.
say it in Latin, but
So I'll cut to the chase and ask that the ZBA permit Harbor Light to withdraw its modification request with respect to condition 29.
Thank you. And I assume we should vote on this. Yes, then I would entertain a motion to allow the applicant to withdraw its proposed change to the language in paragraph 29 of section B of the conditions. Is
I'll motion to withdraw that, 29.
there a second?
I second for the withdrawal.
Further discussion, questions or comments from members of the public? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, thank you. Next, now we are in section C, conditions prior to issuance of a building permit. And paragraph 1C provided in the decision, submit to the board and building inspector a certified copy of the regulatory agreement and monitoring services agreement for the project. Execution and recording of the regulatory agreement and subsidized funding commitment shall be complete before issuance, of a building permit. And the proposed language from the applicant is no construction may begin under the building permit until the execution and recording of the regulatory agreement and subsidized funding commitment, period. Any, Mr. Pucci or Mr. Twyman, anything?
I'm okay with that. I mean, it only distinguishes between before they apply for the building permit, they'll have it in place, as opposed to they can't do the actual construction. I should note to you, the way these work is when they get to the stage that they're ready to apply for their building permit, that's when they're doing their, conforming the final construction plans to the conditions of approval. So there's a lot going on at that point, a lot of balls in the air. My experience is, that regulatory agreement is in flux, that they've requested it from the subsidizing agency at that point. So as long as they have it in hand and the building inspector understands that, that he could condition the permit at that time, because you do want the signed regulatory agreement before they break ground. But I think you're adequately protected on this. Again, as long as you're assuming that the building inspector is going to read this and, know what it is that's involved.
Okay. Mr. Twyman?
Related to what Attorney Pucci just said, the subsidizing agency typically will not grant the regulatory agreement until a building permit can be produced. And so that was our issue here, is that it said that no building permit until regulatory agreement, so it's a chicken and egg sort of thing, but I think the language takes care of it.
Thank you. Questions or comments from members of the board? Members of the public? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the proposed changed language to paragraph C1C.
I motion to approve the changed language of paragraph C1C.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye, okay. Next, we are in section D, conditions prior to issuance of certificate of occupancy. Paragraph 2, which related to landscaping. The decision provided landscaping shall be installed per the approved and the final plans. To the extent that landscaping for the project is not completed prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the applicant shall provide the board a satisfactory surety instrument that shall not expire unless and until it is satisfactorily replaced or released in an amount to be determined by the board based upon the applicant's reasonable estimate of the cost to complete such landscaping work. And the proposed change by the applicant, it would read, landscaping adjacent to those buildings for which the applicant seeks certificates of occupancy shall be substantially installed per the approved and final plans prior to the issuance of such certificates. To the extent such adjacent landscaping is not substantially completed prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy, the applicant or the general contractor for the project shall provide the board a satisfactory surety instrument, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The rest of it reads the same. As I recall, discussion of this at the last meeting was that I at least would like to be clear that the landscaping that's proposed along the property line that abuts Canterbrook is specifically within the definition of adjacent to. And with that, anything you want to add, Mr. Twyman or Mr. Pucci? Or
The only thing I will add about this paragraph generally is just on the thing about the surety. I have no problem with that additional language because you're bound pretty much by whatever options that they have under the state statute at that point. I'd kind of defer more to the board on how you feel about that landscaping provision, as I would assume you know your customary practices more than I do. So if you're comfortable with that in terms of envisioning where you're at with the project at that point, does it make sense to you, you know, with your knowledge of local conditions, that you anticipate that there may be unfinished landscape work that, you know, it makes sense to issue the certificate of occupancy as long as you've got a surety?
well, as I say, if I'm speaking just for myself, my concern is just with along the property line. I mean, I can't, we don't have the landscape plan in front of us, but, you know, if there were landscaping proposed on the, you know, the septic field, the other side, that wouldn't concern me so much, but.
So I think what you're saying before Attorney Diamond comments is if that landscaping is complete at that point, that in other words, substantial kind of includes definition.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would want, just add language in which shall include the proposed landscaping along the, whatever the, you know, the east side, west side.
What you're saying is you don't want to issue a certificate of occupancy and issue a surety on that part. You want that done
Right.
at that point.
Yeah,
More of
yeah,
making
Could I
sure that's
propose
complete.
an amendment to the amendment?
by all means.
So how about at the end of paragraph 2, that there's a sentence that says, open quote, adjacent landscaping, close quote, for purposes of this paragraph shall include that portion of the project landscaping plan at the Canterbrook Farms property line.
Works for me. Any questions or comments, other questions or comments from members of the board?
So that line would assure us that that gets in place prior to,
So they'll have their
Certificate.
block.
Yeah, before there's any certificate of occupancy on the project.
and then you can work on the rest of it.
The rest of it
later.
might be
Yeah.
in phases, et cetera.
Yeah, I think that's the best
Okay.
way to do it.
And I can submit that language to George.
Okay. Okay, then, are there any questions or comments from members of the board or members of the public? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the amendment, the amended language to paragraph D2. Is
Motion to approve that.
there a second?
I second.
All those in further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Okay. Same section, paragraph 4. No certificate of occupancy. There is a proposed change. I won't read the entire section. There's a provision that a request to add at the end of, to the last sentence, which reads, the applicant acknowledges that a letter of credit is not a suitable form of surety under GL Chapter 41, Section 81U, Section 7, to add to the language to read, the applicant acknowledges that a letter of credit is not a suitable form of surety under GL Chapter 41, Section 81U, Section 7, Paragraph 7, provided, however, a general contractor bond or applicant's covenant pursuant to GL Chapter 41, Section 81U shall be satisfactory. Any questions or comments from members of the board? If not, then I'd entertain a motion to approve the amended language to paragraph D4.
I motion to approve paragraph D4's amended language.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Moving along, we're now in section E, special conditions. Paragraph 2 in the decision reads, the dumpster for the project shall be located at the opposite northwest, corner of Canterbrook Lane. Dumpster pickup shall be on a once per week basis on a Monday to Friday, not before 7 a.m. and not after 6 p.m. And the proposed changed language would be, the dumpster for the project shall be located at the opposite northwest corner of Canterbrook Lane, except for special circumstances such as unit move-outs or move-ins. Dumpster pickup shall be on a once per week basis on a Monday to Friday, not before 7 a.m. and not after 6 p.m. Any questions or comments from members of the board or members of the public? Any comments from Mr. Twyman or Mr. Pucci?
I have nothing helpful to add on that.
No,
That's
okay.
totally up to you.
Okay. Then I would entertain a motion to approve the amended language to paragraph E2.
I motion to approve the amended language to paragraph E2.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All those in further discussion, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye, okay. And as Ed McMahon used to say, I hold in my hand the last. Paragraph 3 of E, special conditions, and the decision reads, the applicant shall pay a fair share contribution of $172,058 of the cost of construction of a sidewalk along Asbury Street in front of the project site to Highland Avenue. And paragraph 3 is proposed by the applicant would read, contingent on the full sidewalk project budget being available in advance, and on the town of Canterbrook Village also agreeing to fund their respective portions. The applicant shall pay a fair share contribution of $172,058 of the cost of construction of a sidewalk along Asbury Street in front of the project site to Highland Avenue. Now, I guess we had some discussion about this at the last one, and I understand it's fair that there only be a payment if there's going to be a sidewalk, in the interests of, my thinking, in the interests of acknowledging the reality is of the situation is that Canterbrook's not going to pay anything in, but that there should be a contingency if the town decided to go forward with a sidewalk, that that Harbor Light would pay $172,058, but only in that situation. Mr. Twyman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So would that concern be addressed by simply striking the words "and Canterbrook Village"?
I think it would to me. I mean, I think that recognizes the reality. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Pucci, is that?
Yeah, that would work. I mean, your concern was you don't want to make it contingent on something, number one, that's dependent on a third party, and number two, that they're unlikely to
Right, and I
do it
guess from a
anyway.
transparency situation, we know that, I mean, I understand that how the calculation was made, but I think Canterbrook's already probably indicated they're not in a position to.
Yeah, and
so-
the spirit, as you had talked
Yeah,
about before,
so
is
that-
you certainly don't want to make them pay $178,000 if there's not an actual sidewalk.
Right, but it should be clear, it's only if a sidewalk goes forward. So with that, yeah, so, any other questions or comments from members of the board? Anything else from members of the public? If not, then I would entertain a motion to approve the language proposed by the applicant for the paragraph 3, with the exception that and Canterbrook Village also agreeing to fund their respective portions be struck. So it would read, contingent on the full sidewalk project budget being available in advance. I guess just that. And the town also agreeing to fund
Its portion.
its portion. The applicant shall pay a fair share. Okay. So with that amended language, is there a motion to approve that language?
I motion to approve that language.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Let me just double check. I believe that addresses everything. Now, Mr. Pucci, do we have to make a separate finding that these were we find these were insubstantial changes, or
You
is
could
it?
make that clarification. I've been taking your votes to approve as that you're accepting them as insubstantial changes under the procedural posture that this is, but it wouldn't be bad to just
Yeah, let's
clarify.
just, okay, so I guess,
We'll solidify this.
yeah, okay.
Approval means that we've
So,
accepted the substantial
is there a
changes.
motion to accept the that the changes we voted on to the decision, the board finds that these are insubstantial changes. Anyone want to move that?
I'll move that. yeah.
Moved by Bruce Gingrich. Is there a second?
I will second.
Any questions or comments from Mr. Twyman, Mr. Pucci, or members of the public? If not, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Thank you. Now, could you just either or both of you tell us what happens from here and when this decision becomes final?
Yeah, I'm open to suggestions. I was going to talk to Attorney Timon about that. What I would prefer to have is just one document modification specifying what's modified and all other terms and conditions shall stay in effect. I think that's the easiest way, and just have it as something signed, if that's acceptable to the board.
Yeah, now, will the board sign the new, or would you sign as attorney for the?
I would have the board sign unless you want to appoint one member to sign on behalf of the board. That might be easier.
Would it be faster to have Joe take care of
I'm
it?
sorry?
Would it be faster if we appointed Joe to sign off on it, or do they want us to do that?
I guess we should see it to the end and sign it.
You
I mean,
okay?
just when it's
Yes.
ready, you know, I mean.
Yeah, I'm fine either way. Typically, I'll have the full board sign it, or the board appoints the secretary of the,
Yeah.
sometimes the board will have a designated
Yeah,
secretary
I
on the
know.
board. But I'm fine putting 3 signatures on it. and-
Oh, no, when it's ready, we'll sign it, just like we
Yeah.
signed the original one.
Stop it. and sign
And then is there any kind of an appeal period by anyone to this, or is it just?
No, you've accepted it. The original appeal deadline has run. There was no appeal of your permit, which is good
Okay.
news. This is America, and anybody can sue for anything, but my opinion would be it's
God
not a
love 'em.
valid appeal.
Yeah, okay. So you report to the HAC that this has been
Yeah, the
settled
HAC
or
will be-
changed, so,
take
okay,
it- We'll take the news very well.
okay.
Right.
Mr.
I
Twyman?
agree with everything that was said, and I appreciate the time that, and attention you've given this, as well as the town council has. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we have some minutes. We have some minutes from the last meeting to approve. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the April meeting?
I motion to approve the April minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Discussion, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, again, this is, looks like it will be my last meeting. My intention is, once the decision's been signed and is final, that I will resign from the board. I've very much enjoyed serving on the board, serving with all of you. And should we, do you want to tentatively set a July date, or do you want to go with July 5th or 12th?
I think we could go with August if nothing's on the agenda.
Okay. At this point, looks like the board will not meet in July. If something comes up, so there'll not be a scheduled July meeting. If something comes up that somehow requires chop decision, the board can set one up. But if not, then the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Board of Appeals will be August 2nd, 2023. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and good night.
Bill, congratulations.